Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum. So something I want to address today is one of the questions that we are being asked most often right now, and that is, what age is Roots good for? Now, while Christine and I didn't specify specific age numbers that this copybook can be used for, we did specify the elementary ages, and I'm going to go into why that is. So if you guys open up to any week in the book, you're going to see that the passages we chose are short passages. So maybe one, maybe two sentences in any given week. I think the longest passage we have in here is maybe 3 sentences. We're not getting into paragraphs, right? So this would not be, we kept everything short so that way the elementary child, younger elementary, middle elementary, even up to the older elementary, they're getting nice short passages to copy from. Okay, they're not getting large paragraphs of text that they have to copy. Okay, another thing about this book, when we created it for the elementary child, is that we kept the copy lines. If you look at the size of our copy lines, these are really medium-sized copy lines. These are not the really large copywork lines that a pre-K child or a kindergarten child might copy from. These are medium-sized copy lines for an elementary age child who already knows how to write. You understand? So writing is one of those skills that takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. It can be very frustrating for some children. It's something that just definitely takes time, and it develops in different ways over a period of time for children. So usually children on the younger age spectrum, 4 years old, 5 years old, because they're still learning how to control their pencil, how to control their hand, they tend to write very large and very spread out. And so those children need nice fat copy lines. So elementary age, they've usually already learned to get more control with their pencil and more control in their hand to be able to write. So the medium copy lines are good for the elementary age child. And it doesn't mean their writing is going to be perfect. But the copy work, the way these lines are spread out, is that it helps them form their letters correctly from the top to the bottom, and it also helps them to space out their words. So you can see here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you 3 samples of copywork from my own children, okay? And what they did was they all copied the week 1. This is the book, and it is guidance sure without doubt to those who fear Allah. That's the week 1 passage, okay? And I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this copywork was done by my 6.5-year-old. He's nearly 7. He'll be 7 in December. So between 6.5 and 7, this is what copywork might look like. So you can see that his letters are in the lines. The capitals are starting at the top. The lower cases are kind of starting towards the middle. But you can see that because he's on the younger end of the elementary spectrum, he's still learning control with his pencil and with his words and with the way he forms his letters. One thing specifically you can see is that sometimes he doesn't put enough space in between his words. Sometimes he does, but sometimes he forgets. So you can clearly see that this is a child who's still learning how to control. But these lines are good for him because he's already old enough to not need as much physical space as he may have needed when he was 4 or when he was 5. And for your child who's on that younger age spectrum, you can take your copywork bit by bit. There's no need to rush them to finish an entire passage in one sitting. And so again, like, writing comes easier or more difficult to every child. It's going to be different. So if you have a child who struggles with their writing, if you have a child who needs more time to develop their writing, let them take the copywork in chunks. They don't need to do the whole passage in one sitting. They can just start out with the first few words. This is the book. And that's their job for copywork for the day. And then the next day you come back to it and they'll do the second part. And it is guidance sure. And then they're done for the day. And then the next day you can add in without doubt. And then they're done for the day. And the next day you come back and you add in to those who fear Allah. And by the end of the week, they will have a complete copywork passage. The most important thing with copywork is that you allow the child to take their time. Copywork is something that develops your writing skill through focused concentration and through patience and time. So when I have my children do copywork, I always advise them to take it slow. It's not something you ever want to rush through. It's something that you want to take nice and slow. Have your child take their time, make sure they're calm. I'll let my children drink tea, I'll let them snack while they're doing it, and they can just go nice and easy, forming every letter, making sure that every word is correct and it matches, making sure every punctuation mark is included, and it's a really focused and slow going activity. So this is my 6.5, nearly 7-year-old. Now look at the difference here between my 8.5-year-old. Okay, so this is his copywork. Now you can see he has much greater control over his words and his letters, and he's still writing a little bit on the larger side, right? But you can tell the difference in the control between the 6.5, almost 7-year-old, and the 8.5-year-old. The exact same passage from the same page of the book, but written in two very different ways, okay? Now if I show you my 10-year-old, it looks even more different. So here's my 10-year-old, and see, for him, he's actually, for a while now, he's been used to writing on smaller lines. So these lines actually threw him off just a tad bit because they are a little bit big for him. My 10-year-old likes to write small. So you can see how he started writing small in the beginning, and then he corrected himself as he went along to make sure that he was following the lines. I think it's good, even if they're used to writing on smaller lines, that they use these lines in the elementary age, because it helps them to, again, focus on creating their writing in a nice and controlled way. So it really helps with penmanship at the end of the day. And you can see the difference here clearly between my 8.5-year-old. You notice how the words are much darker. You can tell that because of the pressure he was applying to the paper, it took him more control to take his time and create his words and letters than it did my 10-year-old. He's more familiar with copywork. He's been doing it longer. So for him, he's able to get through this passage pretty quickly. And his pencil is not, digging into the paper because he already has that control to just move smoothly along. So this is the difference that you'll see. Again, 10-year-old, here's the 8.5-year-old, and then here is 6.5 going on 7. So really, when you ask what age can this book be used for, your child anywhere in the elementary range can use this book and benefit this book with the copywork. And then all of the resources and activities that we put into the book as well, suggested readings, games, activity ideas, projects, these are all geared towards the elementary child as well.